Hello, in this video I'd like to talk about the Css Transform Property. So I have an index.html file and the style.css, and the file is opened in a live server. So for demonstration purposes I will create a very simple div. It will hold only a paragraph, and we'll just add some basic styling to it. I made a typo here. Okay, so it's just a square with a 200 pixel width and height, background color, and we'll just align everything to the center. And I added a little bit of transition because I'd like to demonstrate the transform property when we hover over this div element. The CSS transform property, we basically use it for two-dimensional or three-dimensional transformation, and we can use it to rotate, scale, translate, or skew an element on a web page. To do this, we can use a number of transform functions, and I think the best way to learn it is to do it. So let's see how this works. So first, let's look at the scale function. Okay, so as I said, we will use this div and its hover state to demonstrate the different transform functions. So we'll just use the transform property, and here we use the scale function. And here we need to add a value, so how much we want to scale it, how much bigger we want to make this element. Let's say 1.5. Okay, and if we hover over this element, it gets bigger. Okay, so let me just move this element to the middle of the page so we can see these effects better. Okay, so we can do that just adding a few changes to the body. So now if we hover over this item, we can see it becomes bigger, and because we added a transition here, it's kind of smooth. So without the transition, it would be like this. It would be instant. So this is the scale. Let's see how we can rotate the element. Let's just comment this out. So we use the rotate function and we add a degree like this. And if we hover over the element, it's rotated. We can use more than one function in a declaration. So for example, we can paste it here. We need to put a space between the functions. And it's rotated and it's also scaled. We can use a negative value. Then it's rotated counterclockwise. Okay, now let's take a look at the translate function. So with the translate function, we can move an element on a web page on the X and Y axis. And we can do this like this. Translate. And let's say 50 pixel and 100 pixel. And if we hover over the element, it's not working. Oh, it's not working because we need to separate the values with a comma. Okay, so it goes 50 pixel on the X axis and 100 pixel on the Y axis. Just like here, if we want to change the direction, we can use negative values. And if you don't want to move the element in two directions, you can use the single versions of these values. So if you want to move it on the X axis, you can just use the translate X function. Or you can use the translate Y. And again, you can use negative value. Okay, so you can do a lot of interesting things with the transform property. Okay, let's check the next one. The next one is the skew. So the CSS skew function is used to skew elements on a document. It takes two arguments. The first is the angle of the skew, and the second is the amount. Okay, so let's take a look at it, how it works. So we need two values here. So the first is the angle and the second is the amount. And let's see if we hover over. Okay, so if we increase the amount, oops, it looks pretty crazy. Let's try a little bit smaller one. Okay, so for example, you can use this effect on buttons, for example. You want to add some cool hover effect on a button. It could be really, really nice. Okay, maybe let's add the cursor. So let's say it's a button. It does this little skewing on the hover state. Okay, so just like with the translate function, here we can also use single versions. So for example, skew X. Then we only need to add one value to the function, or skew Y. So far, we looked at 2D transformations. Now let's look at a few 3D transformations. So the CSS 3D transformation is basically a set of CSS properties that allow us to change the position, rotation, and scale of an element in 3D or on the Z axis. let's take a look at how this works. So for example, we can use here the rotate 3D function. Okay, so here the first value corresponds with the x-axis, the second value with the y-axis, and the third value with the z-axis. And these are responsible, and these three are responsible for the rotation. And the fourth value is the angle of the rotation. Okay, so let's take a look at how it looks. Okay, so if you look at it carefully, it kind of bends backwards. We can use negative values, then it changes the direction. Okay, let's take a look at another one. It's going to be the translate 3D function. It moves an element to a different location in 3D space. And we usually use the translate 3D with another function called perspective. And this is what creates a 3D effect on the element. It can be used to give the illusion of depth and distance. Okay, so let's see how we can use this. So first we use the perspective function. Let's give this value. Then we use the translate 3D, and here we need to add 3 values. Okay, so it moves it and it also pushes it in the background. Okay, and the last one I want to show you is the scale 3D. So it's basically the same as the scale we tried it here, but it works in 3D. So with these 3 values, we specify the amount of scaling in each direction. Okay, if you have any questions, just leave a comment below. I'll leave a link to our blog post about CSS transforms in the description if you want to know more about this. And don't forget to hit the like button if you like this video. Thank you very much.